Welcome, fellow seekers of challenge and triumph, to the SufferSooner podcast. Join us on a journey where ordinary souls embark on extraordinary endeavors. From the relentless grind of gravel to the punishing gauntlet that is triathlon, we've tasted our fair share of suffering. So fellow endurance warriors, let's lace up our shoes, strap on our goggles, and dive headfirst into the challenge, knowing that with every step, stroke, and pedal forward, we grow stronger together. All right, guys, welcome to episode 62, the Open Range Preview Show. Basically, AKA Surviving the Crucible.
The Crucible. This is we always talk about this, right? This is both of our favorite races of the year, our favorite race of the year, right?
Yeah.
And this is year number 4.
Yeah,
Believe that?
This is year number 4. I'll probably do it until either the race kills me or Eric stops putting it on.
Right? It's a totally different experience every year.
Yeah,
So-
and much of the course stays the same. You know, the roads that they use to go out there. The ranch has changed in the last couple of years. But yeah, the weather plays a part. One year it was 40-mile-an-hour headwinds the whole day. Tailwind out, headwind all the way back. And then last year it was tailwind, but also tornado. And then, you know, the year before that it was 40-mile or 30-mile-an-hour winds, crosswinds. It was, so it's every year it's a crapshoot on what you're going to get with the weather. And so we'll do a little weather check. And of course, I've been watching the weather all week, and it's been changing every day.
Right.
So you never know what you're going to get. Hopefully, the wind forecast stays. The wind has been staying the same. It's just the only thing that's been changing is whether it's going to rain or not on race day or not.
Yeah, and so a year ago at this time, we were watching, there was severe weather forecasted, and all the way up until the morning of the race, there was like threat of tornadoes, and
it looked bad.
It looked really bad. That green sky off in the distance.
It was, when I was out riding the southern part, we were just watching, I tell Eric, I was like, man, I was just watching it, and I was just hoping it was going to continue to just be a little bit east of Medicine Lodge, and it was, but it looked scary. It looked real scary.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think we're going to have severe weather this year, at least not according to the forecast, but we could get rain.
Yep. Could get some rain.
And that would actually be a good thing, because I know, so I was talking to a friend of ours this morning, and he was asking about the course and what should he expect. And I'm like, well, you should probably watch the podcast and you'll get all the tips you want. Right.
Exactly.
but no, it was, he had a lot of questions about it, because if it does rain as much as it looks like it's going to, what does that mean for the course? What does it mean for sections of hike a bike? And nobody seems to want to do that, which I can understand why. But this course has so much sand in it, and Eric was telling us about this in the Gravel Cup preview, that there's so much sand that actually the rain will help.
Yeah, it firms
pack
it up.
It in.
Yep.
Yeah, so
there's a couple sections, and we'll get to that when we do the tips and tricks for the whole route. There's a couple sections to be wary of, but other than that, if it's too bad, Eric will kind of reroute us or just let us know. He doesn't want us hiking through there,
right?
Then having everybody just have a miserable
rip off
time.
derailers and have to have the fire department come out and get us.
That's not what this race is about. This race is about experiencing the beauty of the Gypsum Hills and not screwing up your bike for the rest of the season.
Right.
So if he's had it before where one year it rained and it rained and one of the ranch sections was too muddy, so he just cut that part off, and we just rode the road back into Medicine Lodge.
Yeah.
And so if that happens, it's not a big change. It's not hard for him to push out that route. And he usually does a check. He's probably going to drive those roads probably tomorrow or the next day and make sure everything's good.
Yeah.
Especially in that southern section. The upper section's mostly paved and stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So do you want to do like a little preview of the race itself? Like I think the route was just released
so
just a little bit ago.
Yeah, I have the route and I'll share it as soon as I can get it. But we call it the Crucible because it looks like a little bowl. We start in Pratt, and you basically come out and start heading south and west. the first section that everybody's going to be worried about is kind of where my pointer is, right before you meet the top part of the crucible part. There's a nice sandy section that hopefully will be compacted and won't be too sandy. The first year we ever did it, it was super loose, and a lot of people just jumped off and
it was a few hundred yards. It wasn't very far, but
it's pretty deep sand right there. But then it gets, that's just the first kind of like little choke point. So that part, I would say, if you get to Pratt early, ride that section, see how it is, and then get a good line. Tips for riding through sand is just keep the hips loose and just let the bike kind of go where it wants to go. It'll fall into a rut, and then it'll just go wherever that rut goes. So don't try to freak out. And
I remember that first year doing it, because I mean, that's probably the first area that, to your point, if you've never done this race before, you've never ridden in sand, like you'll get a little nervous. And I remember the first time riding through that, people say, well, keep your hips loose. I didn't know, like, okay, but what do you mean by that? You just have to feel the bike sort of float underneath of you. And then keep the cadence quick.
Like the cadence,
shift down to easy gear and keep the cadence moving.
Keep the cadence moving, pedal. You don't want to pedal too hard. You don't want to pedal too soft, because you'll just bog down. But you just want to like a medium gear and just kind of ride your way through it. And then if you have to jump off, you have to jump off. Then you have this south section, all paved. We're going to get, depending on the wind, it's going to be coming out of the east if the wind holds up. So it's going to be a crosswind. So, which will be nice for this next section, which is a long, straight gravel section with some rolling hills. The bottom of these hills, there is always sand in the bottom. So just be prepared if you're bombing the descent that you'll probably ride through some sand, and it'll be a little sketchy at first.
And that's the thing. So and Eric puts this in the rider guide, but the sand will accumulate at the bottom of those hills, and we've seen people where they try to bomb it, and then like they hit that.
They hit the sand and they kind of lurch forward and they kind of freak out. But basically, what you're doing is you're just keeping the hips loose, and you're just looking for that line, and you're just kind of going through it. And if you do feel nervous, just slow down before you get to it.
And the sort of getting ahead of the tips and tricks here, though, that if you just see the tire tracks, like you can just ride through the tire tracks and you'll hit a little packed down section, but you'll be able to tell you'll have enough time to recognize that that's a loose sand pit up. Unless you're at the front of the race, you're going to be able to tell there's a loose sand pit up there.
You can see most of these downhills and the troughs and the stuff. Then you get to your first ranch section. This is, it's just about picking good lines. It's usually double track through there. So, one side will be rocky, and then you'll have to move over to the other side. But there's not like big flint stones like there is in the Flint Hills. It's just, there's a couple rocks and stuff, but it's mostly just sandy, bumpy. And then you're kind of going through this oil field kind of area. Then you're on your way down to Sun City, which is your first aid station. And that's great. You've made it a third of the way, which is awesome. And so, then from there you refuel. You have a big climb a paved big climb coming out of Sun City. That thing it's long. It's usually exposed. It's pretty windy. It'll be windy there. So just prepare for that.
The good news this year is if the wind holds up, the wind will be coming out of the east, maybe the northeast at that time of morning, depending on how it shifts. Every year we've done this, we've had a headwind coming out of Sun City. And so there's a chance that this could be the year we don't have a blasting headwind.
Nothing's worse than climbing a hill, a long hill with a big freaking headwind.
Because it is fully exposed. So ideally, the wind holds up and we can get through that and just have the road climb to deal with. But one of the things I noticed is that at Sun City, if you go in with a group, sometimes it's really hard to leave with the group because people really break up there, and it all depends on your, how long you take your pit stop. But don't expect to stay with the group you came in with. It's not likely to happen.
Especially on that, because people climb at different rates and stuff. And then if you're intending on racing this, I would highly recommend registering for the drop bag. Get your drop bags, get that stuff squared away so you can make your pit stops as short as possible, because you want to be able to leave ahead of the group that you were in, so that you can work as a group
Mm-hmm.
until you get to this ranch section. The ranch section is basically single track cow pasture. Basically what you're going to be looking for is flags on sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the wind, if it's been really windy, they may not be still standing. So follow your GPS map because Eric does a really good job of basically tracing this out on Ride with GPS.
Mm-hmm.
So if you download the file, it'll kind of keep you in where you need to go. A lot of times too, the ranchers are really good about, making sure that like on a point that you see a flag, you should almost be able to see another flag.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go flag to flag to flag. If not, you're following the path. And sometimes there's been some creek crossings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the cattle use this area, so it may be just bumpy. But there's nothing like, it's not gnarly.
Super technical.
Yeah, it's not gnarly single track or anything.
This is a part, or I think I'd made a comment on one of our previous episodes about, especially in that area where the cattle sort of trample through, just ride within your abilities, because you'll have some fairly steep downhill sections. You can pick up a lot of speed, and it's like bone jarring. Like it's teeth rattling. It's just ride in your limits there. You're not going to lose a lot of time in this section.
Yeah, these sections aren't that long.
Right, and so you'll kind of go, and if it holds up the way the map, I think this is the same general path that we used a year ago, and if that holds up, then you're gonna have this nice sort of relief downhill section to start with, and then you're gonna kind of climb back out of it.
Yep.
And in that downhill section, that's where you pick up all the speed, and then once you get through that, it's actually a very nice area to ride in.
You're going up and down. You're getting on the top of these little bluffs, and then you're being able to taking the views. Yeah, just taking the views of this, ranch area that basically only the ranchers and us and the cows have been able to see it. So really just take it in, really enjoy the view. And then you'll just come out of that and you'll get back onto a more southerly dirt track, and then you'll start making your way west towards Medicine Lodge. The only thing is this is some fast gravel. This bottom section has a chance to be muddy. Yeah. It's been muddy in the past, and if it is, there's usually some good lines to go through. It's not going to be hike a bike through there.
Right.
But it will be, if it has been raining, the rain will tend to pool down in here because it's kind of like the lowest point on the route. Yeah, and then the other thing for this year, if the wind holds up, this is probably going to be the section where breaks form. Yep. You can just expect that there's going to be it's not forecasted to be super windy, but even a 10 to 15 mile an hour headwind is enough to sort of break up the groups a little bit. Yep. But it is a fast section, to your point. So if you can stay in a group and you can work together, this has the potential to be a really quick jaunt from Sun City to Medicine Lodge, even with the wind. If you can regroup after you get through that ranch section, people can work together to get through this faster section because the gravel's really fast and you can ride on, both tracks, and the road down there is relatively fast. Yeah. And then you're going to see the Gypsum Hill, which is this big hill in the back, and you'll start getting closer and closer to it, and it's kind of like your beacon towards Medicine Lodge. Yeah. So, you're getting close. In fact, the hill is kind of intimidating from the distance. Yeah. And then as you get closer and closer, you just realize, like, once you climb that hill, you're not that far from Medicine Lodge. Yeah, just climb that hill, and then you go through this ranch section that can be muddy if it is rainy. So, well, real quick before you get to that ranch section, so you climb the hill, and then you get over the peak, and you think you're going to get a nice downhill bomb, and then Eric goes, nope, you're going to take a quick right. So be ready for that right, because I've seen people blow past it a couple of times, and you got to climb back up the hill. Yeah, you got to climb back up it. So, but you get to that section, and then that area is another beautiful area for the ranch road, and it's not super technical. There's a couple areas you got to be alert on, but that section right there is a lot of fun to ride in. It's one of my favorite sections. Yeah, I would say it's a little bit more technical than any of the other sections. There's last time we rode it, there was like a trough in the road for drainage, and so you had to kind of bunny hop over that. There has been some steep sections. These are used for ranching and, oil production. So there are 4-wheel drives that go through there and kind of, rut out some of the sections. So just be aware of that, when you're picking your lines and stuff. As far as, that's probably going to be the most technical section of the whole route, which is still not as bad as anything. There have been cattle. So again, don't spook the cattle. Just
talk nicely to them.
Just talk nicely to them. Don't freak them out. They're just as scared of you as you are of them. So, they're on the road there. They were on the road last time.
Yeah.
Just be aware that can be a thing. And then you're going to get out and you're going to get to Medicine Lodge, which is your last fuel stop before the end. And so if you get there, the later you get there, the better it's going to be for you, because the wind is predicted to shift to a southeast wind.
Yep.
So you're going to get kind of like a push all the way home.
Yeah.
So
you get out of Medicine Lodge.
And this is Danny's favorite part right here. It's just this long, straight.
It's 8 miles of rolling uphill, more uphill than rolling.
Yep.
But it's 8 miles of and it's like, this is the section for me. I'm like, is this Kansas?
Yeah.
Because it feels like a Colorado type climb.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of how because it's such a long stretch of up. Like you'll be on it and you're like, man, I feel like I should be going faster. And the worst part is a year ago when I did this, there was a small group up in front of me. And this is where I burned a match thinking I was going to catch them. And then I realized that power to weight ratio is not in my advantage on the hills because I'm fat and I weigh too much. So that's a motivation to lose some weight in the off season. Some progress on that goal. But the reality is if you see a group up the road, like it's a long, slow climb. And so when I realized
and the fact that it's rolling, it makes them look closer
than
they actually are.
Right.
So you're like, you'll be going uphill, they'll be going downhill. And then, you see them on the top. So I would not, unless you have a group to work with, which I have never had at this time. I'm usually out here by myself.
Yeah, that 8 mile stretch can get pretty lonely.
Yeah.
And I will say that once you get through that section, so when I saw that group I was talking about, you make a left-hand turn onto a gravel road, and then I think the tendency, at least for that group, but I think the tendency for people in general is you do that long stretch of uphill and then they kind of ease off the pedals.
Yep.
And guess what? You're going to catch that group anyway, which is what I found out a year ago.
Yep.
So I caught that group and then we'll talk more about that another time. But I would actually say don't let off the pedals there because you're going to get a southeast wind this year, hopefully, and you're going to go almost straight west.
Yep.
And that's a chance to fly because that's some really good hard pack through there.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is sometimes they do grade the roads on this section, the section up here from that 8 mile climb to Sawyer. So you may be riding and the grader's on the road and the person behind you is going to get a fully graded road, and when they grade it, it becomes sandy. Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of looking around, trying to find the best lines. Right. Just doing what you can to survive if there is graders out there. Yeah.
Doubt they'll be doing it this weekend, but it's very possible.
Yeah, you never know. It's all up to the county and the state and all that stuff whether or not they're going to grade that section.
Sure.
Then you get to Sawyer. This time we're not stopping at there's like a little convenience store there.
Yeah.
So usually Eric has had to stop and go through there.
Yeah, there's not an official stop.
Yeah, you can stop there if you need to.
Yeah, and a lot of times this is actually one of my I mean this is the thing I look forward to every year is getting to Sawyer for two reasons. One is there's always a group of older ladies that have baked goods and maybe they'll have like a cooler full of Cokes or something like that. If you get there early, they do run out, and I've gotten there late and they're just packed up and gone.
Yeah.
But oftentimes they're out there, and if you're racing it, it's going to be hard to stop because you're obviously going to be concerned about position. But if you're not racing it and they're out there, stop and enjoy some of the baked goods and thank them for their time because they are really, really good. And it's also a great opportunity to sort of refuel. If you're having a tough day, this is a great spot to grab something to eat real quick from those baked goods or go into that convenience store and hopefully they're open and then kind of refuel because once you're in Sawyer, it's not that much further back home.
Nope, so. It's just the straight shot from Sawyer. You're going to cross some train tracks,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're going to start riding straight north. And that section was brutal. That's the section that, Tyler and me had our epic battle. It was basically it's just riding as hard as you can to get home.
Yeah.
And then once you make that turn back onto that sandy section, you're basically there. Then you hop back onto pavement, and then you're going in for the home stretch.
And I will say when you finish that long stretch going north, where you talk about you and Tyler were fighting it out, that is a mental battle on that section,
because you can't really see where Pratt is
right
until you get maybe like 10 miles away, because it's kind of like sunken down.
Mm-hmm.
But you see all the wind farms,
Yep.
and there's just nothing out there, and it's so exposed.
Yeah.
So you're just going to be feeling the wind, the crosswind, and the sun and all that stuff.
And when you make you mentioned at the top part of that, the north part of that section, and you cross back through where we went out, and you get back to that sand pit. I forget the name of that road. I should know it by now. But once you get through that road, you got a little bit of hard pack, and then it gets onto pavement.
Yep.
And if you're in a group there, speaking from experience,
this is the time to make your move.
Make your move, but don't burn the match on that first section of pavement, because there are plenty of opportunities between that first pavement section and the final, say, half mile to a mile into Pratt.
Yeah, you kind
There's
of twist
chances.
and turn into Pratt. So there's a couple turns on pavement. Then you get to kind of like a brick section of roads, and then it kind of goes down and then comes up to like a little, 100 yards uphill sprint.
Yeah, so I think that's a good overview of the course, and again, all about trying to chunk it up and make it more manageable. You can use those two stops sort of as the markers, and we've kind of gone back over the years and sort of compared our times to Sun City to Medicine Lodge home. We've looked at our times, our power, our heart rate.
Yep.
We have combed through the data looking for ways to be more efficient, and maybe it's time to get into some of the tips and tricks, because every year, as I mentioned, it's always been different. There's always either a stronger wind. One year it was coming out of the south, the next year it's coming out of the north, and it's just like this year it's coming out of the east, which is just wild. You almost never get a wind out of the east.
We've had one just straight out of the west before, and that one beginning west section just about broke me. Right.
So I think this year, knowing that the wind is going to be a little different, most likely, I mean, it still has a chance to change. What do you think are like some of the things, like especially that section from start to Sun City? What are some of the things that you would say people need to be on the watch out for?
Well, so if you're racing it, that usually the race kind of breaks right at that gravel or the sand pit, and then once you get onto the road, that's when a lot of people put in some efforts, because you want to get that separation.
Yeah.
If you're just riding it, you're going to go through that sand pit. The section that is gravel after the paved road is up and down. It's rolling. Luckily, there's no headwind this year. Hopefully, if there is, knock on wood. If there is a headwind, it's one of those sections that's hard, but it's manageable.
Right.
It's just that it's straight west, and so just depending on whether the wind is. And then the sections that are, not gravel road but are ranch roads, those are the funnest, and they're usually really good. There's some steep, punchy climbs. There's some good, nice downhills. Everything's, not too technical, but it's still fun. You're going over cattle guards and all that stuff. So just, pay attention. But a lot of it too is just staying composed when you're going through the sand sections.
Right. I think it's also very tempting. I mean, it is in every race, but it's very tempting to getting to Sun City to go out a little too hard.
Yep.
I mean, we see it all the time, and we've done that ourselves. I mean, I have. I probably can't speak for you, but I've certainly done that where it kind of cooked it a little bit. But I will say it's typically cooler on this time of year, so it's probably going to be in the mid 50s when we start. It's about what it's been historically, mid 50s. And so it is tempting to push a little hard, but what I would say is if you're getting a good group, if you're in a good group, like really take advantage of that. And I mean, I know that sounds like common race knowledge, but I don't think people think about that enough, especially in that first section, because again, to me, just looking at how this thing's setting up, the breaks are going to happen on the south side of the course.
Yeah, that section from Sun City to Medicine Lodge, that is...
This year, that's going to be
the hard section. Yeah. That's always been the hard section for everybody.
Yeah.
You have 2 ranch sections, so you're going to have some single track. It's going to be some route finding. Mm-hmm. It's more mentally demanding.
Right.
And then you get to that bottom section, and there's nothing out there.
All the way to the point where you get to the top of Gypsum Hill, that hill, and then you make that turn onto that final ranch section. That, to me, that's if you make it that far and you're in good order and you've been on top of your nutrition and your hydration, then you're gonna be doing pretty good.
Yeah, because most of the hard stuff is over,
Yeah.
except for like I said, if they're grading the road,
Right.
then it makes that section of road super sandy because it tears it all up.
Yeah.
If they're not grading it, it's gonna be fast.
Yeah.
You're gonna be flying. So there is sand on that northern section because it's all gravel all the way back. You're not riding back north on a paved road except for that first climb, but the rest is all a sandy gravel section. So there will be sand at all the road crossings, so you have to deal with that. But again, just pick your lines. If you're in a group, kind of get some separation as you're crossing, these intersections, and then you can kind of reform back up, just in case something happens. But I would say that southern section is always you're really exposed. You're really out there. Mm-hmm. There's a big ranch house that I always look for. It's got a huge gate, huge driveway, huge everything. That's a mansion out there.
Yeah.
It's about 5 miles 5 to 8 miles before you get to the road that goes to the Gypsum Hill. And so Danny's I've never seen that place in my life. You're talking about. It's on the left-hand side.
I'm trying to picture this in my head.
It's got a nice wrought iron gate. It's a fancy house, but when I see that, I'm like, I'm almost done.
Yeah. I'm guessing that's about the time where I'm in this dark hole and I'm trying to figure out how to get out of it. So I really don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, and the other part too is eventually you get to a point where you see the Gypsum Hill in the background and you're just riding and you look and you're like, oh my gosh, that is so far away. And it is pretty far, but the roads are relatively good that you're just cruising towards it the whole time.
Yeah. And then you'll know when you're getting closer to that hill, there is a stretch of sort of gradual downhill hard pack that kind of just takes you right into that paved road. And it's such a relief because once you get to that point, you take that left onto the paved road and head up that climb. I know it's a long climb. It's not a hard climb. It's just a long gradual climb, but it's to me it's actually relieving because it's pavement. It's a good chance to eat because you're not going to get you probably haven't. Hopefully you've been staying on top of it through the prior section, but it's definitely a good chance to eat. Good chance to kind of rehydrate. Just don't bomb that downhill on the other side of it.
And it's a good time for you to look around and see where everybody's at. See if anybody's in front of you. See if there's anybody behind you. See what's going on the course, and then you go into that next ranch section. Get through that. It's been, like I said, that's the most technical of the 3 ranch sections. It's loose. There's some steep areas. There's some ruts. So just be prepared to be on the ball on that section.
Cool.
And then
what other tips and tricks you got? I know there's something else you're holding out. You're not giving everybody everything here. I can tell.
Let's see. I would say so. In our previous times, going, and we're, I would say we're competitive in our age group, but we're not competitive for the race.
For the overall.
The overall.
Yeah.
So it's been 2 hours to
Sun City.
Mm-hmm. It's been about 3 hours to Medicine Lodge, and then depending on the wind, it's been 2 to 3 hours to the finish.
Yep. So
if you're average, middle of the pack person, above average, plan on those times.
Yep.
And pack accordingly. Definitely bring snacks because there's nothing out there.
Yeah.
These places that Eric has us stop are the only places
Yeah.
to get food and water.
Yep.
Um,
I think if I remember right, in Medicine Lodge, I want to say there's a gas station at Casey's, maybe.
Yep, there's
so
Casey there.
but they always stock the aid stations with some light snacks and water, of course. But if you're really feeling drained and you need
the
to
pickle
stop,
juice, they
got the pickle juice.
there.
But yeah, I mean, if you need to get like a slice of breakfast pizza or something, go for it.
Yeah,
just please go for it.
Yeah.
Travis, stop for the pizza.
Stop for the pizza. No, pizza's at the end, buddy. So yeah, I would say like definitely in the first part of the race, working with a group is going to be highly advantageous, and that's what I'm going to be trying to do. Is going to be to hang with the group as long as I can.
Yep.
I know the climb out of the Sun City it's just I'm not a very good climber, especially at that grade.
Yeah. It's
so
like I want to say it's got 5 or 6% in a couple of sections.
I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be my forte.
Sure.
So I'll let the group go then. I'll probably catch them on the single track. If not, I'll see them
on the other side.
Either I'll see them or I won't see them.
Sure.
Depending on how that works. But yeah, I would definitely say nutrition, water. You are exposed out there, and if it is sunny, it will be hot. It says, last time I checked, it said it was going to be like 75. That's probably going to feel like 85 to 90 degrees out there.
Yeah.
Especially with that wind blowing. So if your normal 3-hour ride outside has 2 water bottles for that, then I would probably take a third one.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I mean, just for myself, for 3 hours, I would just anticipate, a pack plus a bottle.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I'm looking at it, because to your point, it is exposed. If the wind isn't, I hate saying this because I know what's going to happen. We're going to be all amped up about much
the
wind,
and then
it's going to
be straight from the
freaking.
north.
It'll be it's going to like shift, and it's going to be like it's a south wind in the morning and a north wind in the afternoon, and you're going to be like, well, crap. But so I hate even talking about it. But if the wind does pick up a little bit, especially if it's that crosswind, and that headwind that you're going on that south section, I would anticipate the pace will slow down a little bit, but just the wind itself will sort of zap you of your hydration a little bit.
Yep.
So I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but I would just say just count on the 3 bottles for that section.
Yep.
Even if you are a fast rider, probably just count on it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're not going to, again, once you get to that Gypsum Hill climb, if you have an extra bottle,
sure, you can dump it.
Dump it.
Yeah.
Like you're only, like 5-10 miles from you're like 30 minutes from the end. So, till Medicine Lodge. So you can definitely get away with, dumping it at the bottom. And plus it's not a big deal.
Yep.
Of course, we've been talking about the weather. I just checked it. It looks like there's some rain scheduled.
But I think it's supposed to be later in the day. Maybe. Well, and so that's the thing. So just checking right now, it's raining now in Pratt, but
which is good for us. Which is
yes,
good. It'll
yes.
pack down the sand. It'll
Yes.
make the sandy sections less loose and more hard pack.
Right.
Which is all good for us.
Before we started recording, we were looking at this, and it was looking like it's a good chance it'll be more clear in the morning. Now it's looking like there's actually a chance, a little bit of an increased chance of showers in the morning.
Yep.
And it's probably going to be in that low to mid 50s to start. But I'm thinking the high, it may only be like 65 or 70. So it might actually feel a little cool if it starts to rain.
Yep.
Taking a jacket. It's a gamble.
It's a gamble.
So
I would say probably, may have the arm warmers and then
I'm gonna throw not my cooler weather arm warmers, but my like moderate temperature arm warmers. The ones like when it's 60s, I usually wear, or low 60s, I'll wear arm warmers.
Yeah.
And if I know I'm gonna be doing a hard effort or something, they tend to I'll just pull them down, and that way you can always pull them back up. But yeah. So I think if it's in the mid 60s and it's a shower, it's probably gonna get kind of cool.
Yeah.
But if you have arm warmers, you should be good. I think again, it's about a 35% chance of rain right now. So we're all meteorologists because we're all like trying to watch this stuff, but there's a good chance that, better than good chance, I think, that you might get a shower, but it doesn't look like a washout kind of day.
No.
So that's the good thing. And it's still showing wind is going to be like 10 to 20 miles an hour, southeast wind. So if that holds up, it's, kind of what we've been talking about. It's probably going to be a fairly decent day. And, we'll see.
Just that lower section. Like I said, the hard section from Sun City to Medicine Lodge, that's going to be the hardest part because you're going to be bucking the headwind.
Yeah.
And the best thing I can say about headwinds is once you just kind of resolve yourself to putting out a constant effort and just keep pedaling, it's going to get frustrating.
Yep.
Because you're like, oh, I'm going so slow and this is horrible and I hate headwinds. Just know that once you get to Medicine Lodge, it's all over.
Yep. You can feel a lot better.
Yep.
So
we do have some rapid fire though.
Well, I don't know if it's really rapid fire. So we haven't done the roasting thing in a while. And so I thought, you know what, given this is our favorite course and we like to talk a lot about it, maybe ChatGPT would like to kind of, give us a hard time about our prior experiences.
Yeah, let us know how it knows a lot about us. So we figured we might as well just see what it knows.
So I like this one here. This is we had not seen these yet, but it says that for open range, it says Travis shows up overconfident and undertrained. Danny shows up overtrained and emotionally unstable, and together they form a perfectly mediocre gravel Voltron.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
This thing knows us too well. I don't like that. Like, that's not good.
Yeah. What are you peeking into my train peaks or what? No. Right. I would say that yes, in the past I've, probably, thought I was a little bit stronger than I was, but I think this year going into it, my FTP is a lot higher. Of course I am carrying probably a little bit more weight than I was last year, but
sure.
Again, it's one of those routes that it doesn't really matter about your FTP.
Yeah.
It really matters like how well you deal with the headwinds and the adversity
right.
and the being out there. So if this is your first time doing it, like, trust me, it's hard for everybody. And
it is. And kind of going into some of the lessons we've learned, like I remember so I went back and looked at my times for this, which is number one, like it's so hard to compare year over year because the conditions are always so different. But if I go back and look at my times in open range, and just look at the last several years now, the first time I did this race, it took 11 hours.
Yep.
And it's like we were joking before recording about we had like 30. I had like a 30-minute aid station stop in there because I'm sure I was
almost
probably
40 minutes.
Yeah, I was probably. I mean, I'm sure it was my fault because I was probably just horribly underfueled out there, and sounds familiar. And so I think that year was also the longest year. It was 129 miles. So there was more ranch road that year. And I remember specifically a ranch road section where I tried to roll up the hill. There's actually some video. I just kind of folded over.
You just kind of fell over.
But no, it was like 11 hours. And then the next year, and it was brutal. Like I can remember getting done with that. Like, I'm not coming back. I'm not doing that race again.
Yeah.
And then the 72-hour rule kicked in, and a couple of days later. In fact,
we were talking about it on the way home.
It was like, maybe it wasn't that bad. And then all of a sudden we're ready to sign up the next year, and we did. So it went from 11 hours that first year, 9.5 hours the second year doing it.
Yep.
So and that first year was heavy headwind to start. That was the year it was a headwind out of the north.
Yep.
And then the second year it cut down to 936, and there was still a lot of opportunity for improvement. And then last year I finished in just under 8.5.
Yep.
And the last 2 years, my FTP really wasn't that different.
Yeah.
And so back to your point about the FTP isn't really a factor here. It really is more about your resilience and your mental resilience.
Yep.
Like, just stick with it. Just know that everybody's hurting out there, especially if you do get in that south section with the headwind. It's going to be a lot to get through. Just know everybody else is suffering too.
Yep.
So, yeah.
All right. What else we got?
Oh my gosh. Fire? Yeah. So So here's a good one here. If suffering builds character, these two should be saints by now. But somehow they're still racing like it's amateur hour on gravel Tinder.
Yep.
I tell you, it's this course will build character. That's why we call it the Crucible.
Yep.
It will absolutely do that. So just one other thing. I really like it when it roasts you. I don't know why. It just brings me joy. Last year we thought Travis was making a move, but turns out he just found a tailwind and stopped pedaling.
Yep.
That's not true though. That's not true. You and Tyler were at it, man.
Yeah.
Epic battle.
I put out some of my best power
Yeah.
towards the end of that race trying
Yeah.
to catch Tyler.
Yeah. All right, one more on me because I got to give equal airtime to roasting myself here. So I like this one here because it said that, and this is real. Almost open range is my redemption race, and it has been. Like I've had to I try to redeem every year. I try to get better and faster, but then I spend 40 miles getting dropped by people in jean shorts. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't
happens.
know. It does. So
No, it's one of those races that it's hard.
Yeah.
It's we like it because basically if you finish open range and you're going to do like, let's say Unbound 200 or something like that, it won't be as hard.
Right. Which is interesting because this race, I looked at last year's the GPS track. I think it had about 5K of climbing over 120 miles. And Unbound had, 10 or 11K over 200?
Yep.
And so you just kind of look at that and you're like, oh my gosh, like so much more climbing and punchiness and Unbound. And there's truth in that. But I will say that, to your point.
Unbound doesn't have the headwind.
Right. It's later in the year. The winds have kind of died down. It's hot. So you do have that to contend with. But I think that this type of course mentally prepares you even more than it physically does. And it does do a lot of good physical preparation, but the mental aspect of this course sets you up for the rest of the season. And I say that all the time. And I just, that's why I like this race so much. So anyway, if you're doing it for the first time, best of luck to you. It's going to be a blast. You're going to have a lot of fun. Enjoy it. Don't worry too much about your time if it's your first time. I mean, if you want to race it, go race it, but don't like sweat it, because I guarantee you'll come back and do it again another year and you'll be faster just because you know the course now. And I think that was one of the things we talked about after the first year too. It's like, oh, if I come back next year, which was when, like now I know the sections I can bomb on the descent, or now I know like how I want to approach these different sections, and you'll just naturally get faster just off of that too.
Yep.
So.
And you'll know that like it's kind of one of those things too, like if it's your first time surviving the unknown.
Yeah.
Like it gets easier once you've done it once. You're like, oh, I made it once, so I can make it again.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is, it sounds so corny and stuff is just keep pedaling.
Yeah.
And especially in the headwinds, just, we always, I always say too, slow miles are better than no miles, because when you stop, you're not making any progress. And so you're just out there longer. Whereas if you were even if you're going at 100 watts and you're going 2 miles an hour, you're still moving.
Still moving forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good tips. So very good. Well,
and then don't be Danny and mess up your nutrition. So
that is true.
Plan it out. Like I said, if you're an average rider, it's going to be about 2 hours to Sun City, 3 hours to Medicine Lodge, and then 2 to 3 on the way home.
And to that point, because this year, again, if the wind holds up, that first 2 hours will feel, even if you're pushing hard, it'll still feel easier, because you're going to have a little bit, it's going to feel faster. And at least for myself, I found it's real easy to sort of fall into that trap of, I feel pretty good. And you just, next thing you know, like you get caught up in riding and you forget to eat and drink and do all the things you need to do to prepare for later on in the race. And that happened 2 years ago. Yep. I remember it very specifically, getting to Sun City and realizing that I was a little behind, because I checked my pockets and I'm like, ooh. But I was able to recover well enough because I jammed a bunch of gels and stuff like that and avoided stomach issues, and I was able to finish strong. But learned that last year, went a lot better last year, and can't have a repeat of Flint Hills this year.
No,
I gotta come out and
gotta redeem yourself for sure,
man. Especially with the way training's been going. Like the training rides have been solid. I really hope I can rip your legs off this weekend.
Yeah, I hope it's a challenge for sure. I welcome it.
Yeah, it probably won't be, but that's okay.
So, yeah, the other tips and tricks I can say, especially if it's your first time and you're doing this, long type of race, just definitely, set up your Garmin if it has the ability to tell you when to eat and drink.
Yeah.
I do that. I just do what it says, and it hasn't steered me wrong. The other thing you can do is if you're riding with people and you see them drinking and eating, you should probably be drinking and eating.
Yeah.
And then the last part about drinking and eating, if you're on a road and you're like, oh, this is pretty smooth, instead of putting down the power, eat something, then put the power down.
You know, we were riding, I don't know, it's probably been a couple years ago now, but it's kind of stuck with me. And it's like, I know for a long time, before you changed your Garmin to set the reminders and everything, I think you did things like on the 5s.
Yep.
Like on the 5s, you would eat or drink.
Yeah, or if I saw the number 5 anywhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so a similar thing to that is like, you kind of said it, but if you even think about eating or drinking, just do it.
Yep.
Like, so you see somebody do it, you think about doing it, because that's the hard part for me. That's been one of the hard things to do, is like recognize that when you think about eating, that's your body saying you need to eat.
Yep.
And it's easy to kind of get caught up again in the race and everything that's going on. And it's also why I like PAX so much, because it's so easy just to grab the straw and take a drink, especially if you load up the
and if you're not a good bike handler, definitely like think about having a pack, or cut the tops of your nutrition open,
right,
so that it's in your pocket. So all you got to do is squeeze it out instead of trying to like
fidget
open it while you're on like this ranch road, trying to bouncing around and trying to open it all. It's not very good to do that. So just plan for that stuff of just being like, okay, if I'm not able to get something out of my pockets because the road's too rough, then when am I going to eat? How am I going to eat? How am I going to get these calories in? So
this course will remind you if you did not eat.
Yeah. So it will definitely punish you for not eating enough.
Yeah. So awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, looking forward to it. And hopefully the forecast is the same. We have a nice, cool, not too windy weekend. I know that doesn't play into your favor.
I know
you
it doesn't.
Want the wind.
I wanted the wind, but if it's going to be the first time of the gravel cup, and we get all these people down here, it's nice to lull them into a false sense of security.
Everybody's like, that race was amazing.
I don't know what these guys were talking about. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see you next year.
Yeah, we'll see you next year
because it'll be different.
It'll be so different, and so. Who knows? Maybe this is the secret sauce. Maybe it had to be part of the gravel cup to settle the windows down, the winds down. Yeah, tame it.
Yeah, tame the beast.
Yeah.
But, well, I'm looking forward to it. It's year number 4, and then just got to get through next year, and the buckle is secured.
Yep.
So just two more races
years.
left.
Two races left.
And then we got to contemplate the future after that. I might just become a volunteer. We'll see.
Oh, no. I'll do it. Like I said, I for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but there's just something about this race that I just keep coming back to.
It's a blast.
Again, it's one of those races that's hard and mentally challenging. It's not physically challenging.
Well, it is, but it's not.
But it's not.
That's not the.
The meat
doesn't
and
just grind
potatoes
you
of it.
down. Yeah.
So, I remember more of this course than I probably do of any Unbound that I've done.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's a lot of it's burned in my mind of pain and suffering, but I don't know. But no, I think it's great. If you guys see us out there, definitely shout out and say hi. We love talking to you guys. We love sharing stories and all that stuff. So I hope everybody has a great race, and we'll see you out there.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please, if you like what we are doing here, leave a like, rate us, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. It really helps us grow and finds us more SufferSooner squad mates. And remember, when the finish line feels impossibly far away, we don't give up, we push harder, we dig deeper, and we find solace in the knowledge that our suffering is temporary and our resilience is forever.